Hi everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon at Franklin Park Zoo. My name is Melanie and I'm one of the educators here. And even though Halloween is over, we have some really awesome creepy crawlies for you today in celebration of Stick Insect Day. So I have right behind me here are spiny stick insects or Australian walking sticks. They have a bunch of different names. And this is their portable habitat. This is where they spend all their time, although we have relocated it for ease of having this chat with everyone. So everything they need is in here. They may be a little bit difficult to locate. There's some that are very easy to see. We have some hanging from the top, one from this branch. But if you look down, there's actually one that's dark brown hanging right from that branch down at the bottom that we're zooming in right now. It's a little difficult to see, but they are really, really awesome at camouflaging themselves. Part of the reason their bodies look the way they do is because they're mimicking leaves in the trees. So that's how they hide from predators like birds. Now you can see if you look at some of them, this one, if we look at the ones up on the top here, this is a fun behavior they have. They're kind of swaying from side to side, and they do that to mimic the swaying of the leaves in trees if there's a gust of wind or if they feel like the branch has been disturbed at all. So that's how they can camouflage themselves in with their surroundings and not make themselves very visible to those birds who love to snack on them. Now, our stick insects are pretty large. These are all females, and I can tell that in several different ways. Number one is the females have a lot more of these little spiky spines all around their bodies. The males will only have the little whisker spines on their heads. So you can see these guys have them all across their backs. You can also tell because females tend to be much larger than males. The females, these are probably about the largest they can get. Stretched out all the way, they can reach up to 8 inches long. So it's hard to tell exactly. These guys, I think, are a little bit more towards like this, maybe 6 inches. But males will typically only be 3 to 4 inches. So these guys are definitely, well, these females are definitely not males. So what else? Do we have any questions? I want to make sure if we have questions, we get to those before I keep talking.
Not yet.
No questions yet? Okay, that's fine. I want to talk a little bit about these green leaves that we have in here. Now, in their native environment, stick insects tend to feed on things like eucalyptus. Those are the trees that they live in their native area in Australia. However, we don't have eucalyptus growing very easily here in the Northeast, so we provide them with a different type of very similar food. This is something called bramble. Those of you who have ever had a raspberry bush or a blackberry bush will recognize these leaves. That is what bramble is. It's the leaves from raspberry or blackberry bushes. So they will feed off of these. You can see down in the bottom we have some old stems. They'll eat the leaves, not the stems. And we cut this on grounds daily for them so they get it fresh. They are herbivores. All they are going to eat are these leaves. So they don't really need anything else in here to eat. You'll notice they don't have any water in there. They actually cannot have large amounts of water because there is a potential for mold, and that could be very dangerous or even deadly to them. So the way that these guys will drink is we will mist down their enclosure, and they will drink the droplets off of the leaves. That's how they get their hydration. So since I talked about the fact that these are all females, these animals or insects have really amazing ability to do something that's called parthenogenesis. I know it's a big word, and most of you may not have heard that before, but parthenogenesis means that females can actually reproduce all on their own. They don't necessarily need to have a male around. Now, if they do that, they are going to have basically what we would consider almost clones of themselves because they're only getting the DNA from the mother, and then they would only have female offspring. But they are able to do that, so we have not seen any eggs laid by these ladies, but it is possible that they could if they wanted to.
Nancy has a question.
Oh, sure.
Can they fly?
Nancy, that's a great question. Surprisingly, the males can fly. They grow very large wings, and that is actually one of their big defense mechanisms, is that they will scare predators away by flashing those wings. The females do grow wings, but they're really, really tiny, so they aren't able to use them for flying. If there are any other questions? Just want to make sure I'm not skipping anybody. All right. So since I was talking about females and offspring, they have an interesting mechanism for having their offspring and for growing up as young stick bugs. The females will actually lay the eggs and kind of kick them out onto the ground, and then they look like little seeds, and then ants will pick those seeds up and eat the tiny little knob on them and then carry them back to their nests. So their young are actually protected by the ant nests while they are growing until they hatch. When they hatch, they look just like baby ants, and they will run as quick as they can out of that nest and up into a tree where they can begin to feed themselves and continue growing into adults. So I think that that's amazing. I've never heard of anything like that in any other species, but if you have, please let me know because I'd be very interested to hear it.
Diana wants to know, what is their native habitat?
They are found in Australia, typically on the eastern area, Queensland and New South Wales for the majority, and they live in areas that are very forested with mainly eucalyptus trees, excuse me. So they may be having some competition from those koalas out there for their food sources. Now, I would love to actually try and see if we can take one of these out. They are very, very delicate. So I am going to offer them my hand and see if they would like to come out. They have teeny tiny little hooks on their feet. So we want to just let them sort of crawl on their own. I won't touch the ones that are hanging upside down because they could actually be injured. Are you trying to look for another? There we go. Now this is interesting. They have that cool scorpion pose. That's something that only the females are going to do. Those males have the giant wings, so they're not going to be able to curl their tails up like that. They're going to have straightened out bodies. And you can see even as they're walking, they're kind of swaying a little bit.
Diana has another question.
Sure.
Who or what eats them in their native habitat?
They are a big bird snacker, or snack for the birds. Multiple different species. I just think they're so amazing when you get to see them walking around. They almost always are hanging upside down. It makes them more look more like the leaves on a tree. But I think it's always fun to see how they move. And you can really see how their bodies make them look like leaves. And you can see their little antennae and their little eyes. I think insects are so fascinating. I could stare at these guys for hours. And you can kind of see how they have those little claws on their feet. Now, an interesting thing about the way that she's got her tail kind of curved up like a scorpion almost. When they are hanging upside down and they feel threatened, not only will they curl their tail up, but they will hang by only the front two pairs of feet so that those long back legs can kick if they feel that their abdomen has been touched by something threatening.
Are they related to any other insects?
There is an entire group of stick insects. They're called phasmids. So they are all related to those, and they are also very closely related to mantids. So if you think that this reminds you of Praying mantis, you are absolutely correct. They are very closely related to them as well.
How long do they live?
Unfortunately, they don't live very long. The females do tend to live longer than the males, but on average, about 10 to 12 months. So they are not a very long-lived species. However, a female can lay 100 to 200 eggs in one breeding season. So they are not of any concern in terms of endangerment or anything like that. They are listed as least concern. There are plenty of them around. They're very interesting, more than a zoological institution or a museum. There are a lot of strict laws around housing these creatures. So if you're looking to have one for a pet or for a classroom, unfortunately, this is not one of the types of arthropods that you are allowed to have as a pet. We actually have to go through a lot of different protocols just to keep these guys here. So happy to be able to share them with everyone.
Where can visitors see them here?
We have a bunch of them. So we have this little group right here that's in our education collection. However, there is a bunch of them over in the Birds World exhibit. They're housed right in the room where the Gouldian finches are. So if you're going through the building, it's the third exhibit area. And if you look over on your left-hand side, there's going to be a little glass-fronted area where we've got all different sizes and ages of these guys.
Tim just joined us and wondered if they're related to praying mantis.
That is a very astute observation. They are related to a praying mantis. They're not technically in the same family group, but they are, both family groups are the closest relation to one another of any of the species. So this group of insects is called phasmids. So phasmids and mantids are basically right off of the same evolutionary branch.
No more questions at the moment, so if you want to.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put this little lady back. I did want to give that opportunity for if anyone wanted to get a really up close look, but these guys are very delicate, so I don't want to have her out for too long. But it's also, this is a awkward situation trying to figure out how to get her back in here because she has decided she wants to stay mostly on one hand, but not all the way. Do you want to keep moving, sweetheart? There we go. All right. Do you want to walk onto this branch right here? There you go. Oops. And she's probably going to start hanging upside down now. That is their natural positioning. I'm going to let go of the door real quick. There we go. All right. And now she is back in. Awesome. All right. If there are no more questions, I mean, I could talk about these guys for hours, I'm sure, but I want to be don't want to be talking everyone's ears off. So if anyone does have any additional questions, please pop those in the chat later on, and we'll try to respond to you at a later point in time. But thank you all so much for coming to watch me hang out with our awesome stick insects today. And if you are by Franklin Park Zoo, please come visit the rest of the ones that we have over in the Birds World exhibit.